Trump just shifted his position on Ukraine, and it is actually a pretty good development. Like, as someone who thinks Trump should spend the rest of his life in jail, I despise him that much. This is a pretty good policy development. It's the closest we're ever going to get to Trump because he's a chronic narcissist, admitting that his whole worldview was wrong. He thought he could just be friends with Putin and solve the war, as if history doesn't tell us that every single negotiation Putin puts forward is meant to be denied. Like, look at his preliminary negotiations before he invaded Ukraine. They were literally meant to be denied. He was flooding Belarus and Crimea and east of the Donbass with troops while he was pretending to negotiate with NATO and putting forth crazy demands. Here's a pretty good Fox News segment featuring Zelensky explaining Trump's Truth Social tweet that kind of encapsulates this shift in positions, and then after I'll talk about how Ukraine could actually win this war. If you're interested in that, here's the clip.
President Trump understands that we need more pressure on him. There's not enough pressure from the Europe. They are our partners, but it's not enough. We need pressure directly on Putin, and we count on sanctions from the United States side.
Meanwhile, President Trump is saying, quote, in a huge Truth Social post, I'll take an excerpt. I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of their Ukraine back in its original form. Here to discuss this.
All right, I'll play a little bit of the interview in a few minutes, but Trump is basically correct here. Russia's economy is absolutely in shambles. If the rest of the world can get on board with this sanctions campaign, that could be very helpful. In the past, I've said that I don't think we should be coercing countries to take part in this sanctions campaign because it is within their sovereign right to not fight economic wars, because economic wars are not popular, right? Not good for living standards, but necessary in this case because the economy is the only thing that can turn the Russian people against Putin. That and possibly the end of the war. A lot of analysts think that Putin likes the war because it keeps him in power. It keeps his propaganda very sharp, pushing the message that Ukraine, that NATO is going to somehow invade Russia through Ukraine. So I think getting those oil embargoes going is very helpful. More helpful is now Trump is going to sell them long-range missiles, something that Joe Biden, great president, but not good in this area, should have done very early on. This is a very easy moral decision, right? Send them the weapons they need to win the war, not to just give Russia slightly more trouble. Also, this seems to the incompetence of the Russian army is not talked about enough. Since the Wagner Group rebellion, that was the most competent sect, I think, of Russia's military force. After they left, they got dissolved because they did like an insurrection-esque type thing. They themselves pointed out how incompetent Putin's army was. But all the competent soldiers are dead. Now it's prisoners and poor people that Putin is giving signing bonuses, like $10,000 to $50,000 to go fight in this war. So you can imagine why inflation is a problem over there. But these people are incompetent. That's why they could not win a war that every analyst would have said is easy for them to win. Right? Russia is, by all accounts, they should have been able to take Kiev in a week or two. But the fact that they haven't shows that they are more of a paper tiger than we think, and we should have just armed Ukraine while we had the chance. If Ukraine had all the weapons that they needed to fight this war a long time ago, maybe things could be different. Trump thinks they could take back all of Ukraine, and I assume he means all of the Donbass. I don't know if taking back Crimea would have support. I don't know what I would think about that, to be honest. If they went into Crimea, that is a moral quandary for even the most stringent supporters of Ukrainian sovereignty. But hey, I mean, I doubt I'd have that much of a problem with it, to be honest. But yeah, this is great. We should absolutely support Ukraine taking back the rest of the Donbass. Let's see what Mike Waltz has to say I think he's the ambassador to the UN, if I'm not correct, if I'm remembering it right.
Here to discuss this is Ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, in his first interview since being sworn in officially. Ambassador, congratulations.
Thanks, Brian.
You're in the eye of the storm. The change in positions of President Trump to where he is right now with President Zelensky, how would you characterize it?
Well, I think you're seeing the president's frustration and disappointment, frankly, with Putin. He has made innumerable calls. We had the summits in Saudi Arabia, in Turkey, in Alaska, obviously. And look, at the end of the day, Putin has to end this war. The president has made it very clear his intent. And what you're seeing now is with the president's urging, you're seeing Europe increasingly stepping up. They're now committing 5% of their GDP, which for years, it was it wasn't even just half, it was just a third that was meeting the bare minimum of 2%. So they're stepping up, they're buying our weapons, they're taking more responsibility for their security. And eventually, one way or another, Putin's going to get the message. And one other point, Brian, that I think is that we have to hammer, and the president hammered home in his speech yesterday, Europe can't be buying Russian oil and gas at the same time they're demanding help.
So to be fair to Europe, they are planning a complete phase out of Russian oil and gas. They are currently operating on a price cap scheme. So the market is definitionally being undersupplied and underpriced. So there's less revenues going to Moscow, but it could definitely be better there. As for Trump, what Trump said at the UN and with the EU paying their fair share, right? For a long time, I swear, the whole election cycle, conservatives were like treating NATO as if it was a bank account that like all these countries were sending money to, and like we were the only one funding NATO's bank account. No, this is domestic military spending, and I have nothing against domestic military spending. For leftists, I'd say I'm pretty pro-military. Usually, there's obviously been horrible misuses of military power by the United States government, but not going to get into that. But them spending more money on military is probably better as long as it results in more money going to Ukraine at the end of the day, because that's what's going to let them. That's what's going to let them win the war. Really, is more weapons. I think they've been lacking the weaponry that Russia has been hitting them with. Like Russia's been hitting them with those long-range missiles and drones that I believe Ukraine has been demanding from Donald Trump. So compared to his position on Ukraine in 2019, where he was willing to set up a bribery scheme to accomplish his own political goals by denying them aid while they were dealing with insurrectionists in the Donbass, just so they could, just for them to announce, not even fulfill, just announce investigations into already disproven conspiracy theories about the Biden crime family and Ukraine housing the DNC server. This is a pretty good movement. Now, most of the people who don't support this war are on the right, and they are delusional. They're anti-war, delusional people. They do not understand that we don't know what Putin wants. The idea that we could have just given up NATO for Ukraine and he wouldn't have invaded is beyond stupid. No one who believes that has actually read the draft ultimatum that Putin sent in the beginning of the war. They don't look at how he constantly changes demands. It's like Israel saying, oh, just release the hostages and we'll end the war. It's like, that's a total demonstrable lie. Why? Because Israel's actual demands are release all the hostages and then we'll negotiate how we're going to end the war, right? You forget the negotiation step. And once the hostages are out, negotiations can easily be, 2,000-pound bombs, right? Those can be negotiations because Hamas has no leverage anymore. And at that point, Israel would just be deciding how to imprison or execute them, right? So that's the deal there. It's very similar for Putin. What he wants is an ultimatum is at the very bare minimum what is detailed in his ultimatum to NATO that he made in mid-December 2021. And if anyone has read the source material for that, they would know that that is a psychotic document. Nowhere does it give any guarantees that they would never invade Ukraine. So I'm glad Donald Trump is realizing this. But it just so goes to show, like yesterday I said he might be the dumbest person on earth. For the stuff he said in the UN speech, he's definitely in the running. I can't believe we've elected the dumbest person on earth to be the most powerful person on earth, but it blows my mind compared to any other leader, to be honest, and it's just shocking. But for the stuff he said in the UN speech was obviously absurd. If yesterday's video explained why his 7 wars in 7 months thing it's just a mind-blowing lie, a mind-blowingly stupid lie that's not even true on the most basic level, like a definitional level. So you can go watch that if you're interested. That's pretty much it. I mean, I remember when the main argument people were making is that like, Russia's so big. How are they going to lose? It's like, I mean, Ukraine's also fairly big. They're a lot stronger than they used to be. This is not 2014 Ukraine. This is a West that is more prepared to fight back against insane people like Vladimir Putin. Right? We should talk about Putin. Putin like the worst of the worst. Like, people are not aware of his war crimes. The fact that we are getting more coverage of Israel's war crimes by orders of magnitude than Russia's war crimes, even though Russia's are worse, but Israel's are causing more civilian suffering, to be fair. But Russia's are categorically less legal, less plausible. I think that's not ideal. The UN should be saying more about Russia's misconduct here. But if you take anything else away, just like people don't know how weak the Russian army is and how incompetent they are, to the point that like their main militia insurrected them, right? People just don't know that. The Wagner Group also was just mad that the Russian military wanted to incorporate them into the main army and remove their independence. So that's also a part of it. But the leader of the Wagner Group had been vocal for a while. The people in charge of this war are dumb, like very like the worst of the worst, and that they should have easily won. Thankfully, they haven't. But that's all.